It's time for Adviceline. Call now at 800-866-8883. That's 800-866-8883. Here's your host, Roy Masters.
Hello, here I am again. My job is to unscrew you. I mean, people screw you, pardon the expression, but my job is to undo all the harm done to you in your life and give you freedom. That's the whole secret here of my work. When I said the secret, that word jumped in front of what I wanted to say. I know how to overcome your traumas that could take you forever and kill you through causing many kinds of illness, thousands of kinds of illness, thousands and thousands, such as a stressed immune system, uncontrollable thoughts, endless stupor thoughts playing an important role, and then you have heart problems and cancer, dementia, autoimmune diseases, smoking, drinking drugs. You know, it goes on. Thousands of diseases come from trauma or stress. But there's something interesting about stress that you need to know, that if you're stressed you lose your freedom. I want you to understand that. Freeze frame that, please. Now, having said that, I just want to review a little bit of the day's news. Benghazi. I noticed this. We really at war when someone attacks our embassy and kills our chief operating officer there, and several others, brave men and women, I suppose. No, there was not a woman there killed, I don't believe. But that is an act of war. There's nothing to do with politics. But strangely, a group of people call themselves Democrats. Didn't cover it hardly at all. Didn't want you to know that your commander-in-chief could be wrong. And not only that, could be the enemy of the state. That's my opinion here. And that he's allowing things to go wrong. Because, how can I say, I've got to hesitate here, because his politics are not just Democrat that it used to be. We used to know Democrats. We fought a war against Democrats, did we not? Civil War, and to free the slaves. They're not much different now. But they've been compromised and made worse by something called socialism or communism. And that's going to bring it down our country, and so they're all running to the defense of their president when he has allowed something to happen or complicit in it happening. I just want to say that. And I just want to remind you of what it looks like to have the country divided into what we now see as Democrats, a Democrat person. In other words, if a country is falling apart, if there's something wrong with your government, the way something wrong is right now, it's got to be a certain kind of person, either deceived or complicit, that has elected them. Now, you need to look at what happens to what is equivalent to Democrat and Republican, what is equivalent in North Korea. The Democrats, or liberals, follow their leader, and it became North Korea. Look at North Korea, and look what's about to happen to America. Look what's happening right now. And I can show you, or talk about this evening if you want to, and you should be calling me about these things, about this man who seemed like a friendly enough fellow. He had 3 ladies, women, children, when some of them were children when they were abducted, in his house. And he looked like a good guy, but they not always look like a good guy. If that person could be elected to be president, he would show that face to all of us. just like what happened in North Korea. So the Democrats, let's call them Democrats, equivalent. See, the ones that elected to go with their leaders are now eating each other because there's no food. And there are those who they elected are tyrants and doing to their people what this man did to those three women, or has been doing to these three women, with nobody to rescue them, no one to rescue them. That's what's happening to this country. It's happening all over. And I want to talk about that tonight, if you don't mind. But we'll take our calls first.
Call Roy at 800-866-8883 between the hours of 9 p.m. and 11 p.m. West Coast time.
The foundation of human understanding teaches an observation exercise, often called meditation, which permits you to become objective toward your problems and allows your heartaches, bad habits, fears, and anxieties to be completely eliminated from your life without effort on your part. Until you have begun to practice this exercise, much of what you see and hear on the following program may be shocking and upsetting to you. But if you will listen calmly and with an open mind, you may discover the key to the peace of mind and joy for which you've been searching all of your life. And now, from the foundation of human understanding, here is Roy Masters.
Yes, before I take my calls and then talk about the things that are happening to our country and using the stories in the news as a means of trying to help you understand what's happening to all of you, what kind of country we're becoming, and we're losing our freedom. And in the beginning of my program a few minutes ago, I was saying to you that your stress, a stressed immune system, which is what's getting stressed, your immune system is affected, your mind is affected, your soul is affected. And all that's compounded by your struggle to redeem yourself. And so, but the endless loop of thoughts that ensues with all suffering plays an important part in heart diseases and every kind of sickness, thousands and thousands of problems. Cancer, dementia, autoimmune disease, smoking, drinking, drugs, everything. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on. And I have found a cure for that. The cure meaning I've found a way to help you deal with the stress and then the results of that stress. So those ladies, those women who have just been released for being held for 10 years in a maniacal, crazy guy's house, manicured and beaten, while he seems so nice on the surface. Your president seems nice on the surface, but if he has his way, what's happening in that household, what happened in that household will happen here. And I will say that because if you just switch the subject, and let me just mention about this doctor, this abortion doctor in the abortion clinic who has killed hundreds, God knows how many, more than hundreds, thousands of babies, live, born, breathing, and found people that help him to snip the necks of, under filthy conditions. And he'd found people to help him to do that because the doctor told him to do it. And so you have in your midst those kinds of things, and the Democrats are defending this man. So if I was a Democrat, I'd be ashamed. I would change my vote right away. Yes, the Republicans at least have a modicum of virtue, and they have their problems, but they do represent, even not perfectly, the country we call America. So I just want to say that. But my job, well, let me say something before I say what my job is. while I was watching the discussion about the three ladies who were held captive, imprisoned, tortured, and all those horrible things that they describe, I don't have to say you've heard the news, and if you hadn't, then you're not awake. But then, what caught my ear was this statement: imagine the suffering of those young women and how much they had to suffer for the rest of their lives. And then you have psychologists talking about, yes, it's going to take years and years and years of treatment. Bullcucky. There is no treatment for that. There is no cure for it. There's no cure for post-traumatic stress disorder except what I have. I know how to do that. And I've given, if I may brag a little bit, 400,000 of these CDs that help them to do it for themselves over the last 4 or 5 years. Also created an organization, a military one, so that at great expense, and gave those CDs to Tony Monaco, who is in charge of that, and to distribute it. We're running out of money, of course, but the thing is, 400,000 combination of CDs and downloads is quite a bit. But it's still not enough, and I wish I had a billionaire to give me $15, $20, $30 million, because that's what it would take to reach the whole military. But you are earning you earn a living, most of you, on welfare. You got money to buy dope and snort dope and waste your money in one way or another. So you could do with a little help from me to help you to become a free individual, that you may think of yourself as such. At this moment, you're not. Because basically, let me just revise I don't want to go into a long. I've got to be careful when I'm opening the program that I don't go too many directions at once. But I wish you'd call me. I'm not interested in somebody disagreeing with me on Benghazi, please, if you don't mind. I don't want to make this political. I'm going to have my way, and you have your liberal media that poo-poos and hides everything your sick president does, your communist president does, and you can disagree with me, and we're not going to agree, so go away. Okay? Now, thank you very much. I just dropped that man because it's not going to be that. I'm going to explain these things, how they work, how your country could become West America, West Coast and East Coast, and one of them would be sort of conservative, not necessarily Republican, but conservative means we conserve the values of our forefathers. Get it? I like that. I came here for that. And I won't put up with anything short of that. And the rest of you can go to the East Coast and create a North Korea, because that's what you'll get, and that's what you're going to deserve. Okay, now, having said that, I will take calls, and wherever I can, I would like to talk about the news and why those people, those three ladies who were rescued from this horrible condition, does not have to suffer for the rest of their lives any more than those who are in a post-traumatic stress disorder in the military. Those who have got my CD the military version is called Coping Strategies. And those who have that, most of them recover. Although 22 men and women kill themselves every day because they can't stand the pain, the agony. And the VA is not helping them but making them worse. I have suspicion that the socialists or communists in the VA that will not help our veterans but make them worse with drugs. And drugs is all they got. But there is a solution. I have it. Thank you. Okay. Now, that's what you can argue with me about, and not Benghazi, please, if you don't mind. That's a declaration of war, and your president has failed you. And if they fail you here, and they cover it up, and if the Democrats don't start helping them cover it up, we may have more stuff like that. And you're going to live under a dictatorship if you're not careful. We'll have a bloody civil war if you're not careful. And you don't want to mess with me, the likes of me, as my enemy. I want this country healed. And I'm born for this. I know how to heal people. I know how it's done. These three women do not have to go through that for years and years and years. And there's some stupid psychiatrists and psychologists who think they know what they're doing. And I have no degrees. Yes, I'm a minister of a church. And for 53, almost 50, no, it's about 48 years, something like that. And I will not wear a collar, and I will not give myself a title because the collar and the title is mesmerizing. Yes, it's an unfair advantage. I just want you to hear me where I'm coming from as an ordinary person. Okay, fair enough? Now that I've given you the rules of the road where you can call me and talk to me about stuff, you can call me about suffering. You can call me about drug addiction. You can talk to me about the horror, the evil of abortion, and how you stupefied people, not stupid, stupefied people elected, voted to kill babies. And you're going to pay for that if you're not careful. Your whole country is paying for it now, the horror of it. The looseness of sexuality, the perversion of our children's minds, how you stood by and let it happen. And they educated your children by dumbing them down with, forcing them to learn to suck it up with Ritalin and Prozac, and you didn't do a damn thing. You look at the corruption of your children. And of course, after the first round of corrupting children, they grow up to be adults and they become worse parents. And then they exponentially, kids grow up and they become even worse parents. A horror. The breakdown of the family, which is intended to conquer a noble country. You cannot conquer a noble people unless you break their spirits. And that's what's happening in America, and that's what you see all around. And when all the horrible things begin to happen, the kind of people who take pleasure in that start to criticize what the good people that are left, and they're called Democrats. Not all Democrats, but if you have voted a Democrat, if you're voting Democrat, you're voting the agenda of Democrats is same-sex marriage, homosexuality, abortion, abortion liberties, that they have no fault divorce, all these things. You voted for them because the media has taken control of your mind, and if you have enough money, they can sell you anything because you are stupefied. Not stupid, but stupefied. You could be so stupefied to become permanently stupid and help the abortion clinic doctor to kill hundreds of babies and think nothing of it, because the doctor says he needed some help to snip the baby's neck and see nothing to it. Those are the kind of people you got everywhere. And there's no justice in America right now, there's no justice in America for conservatives. Very dangerous place to be a conservative right now, because it's top-loaded with the wrong kinds of people in power. You people who belong to the Democratic Party better take a look. You belong to the party that enslaved, that fought for slavery. And you don't realize, but there is a plantation still. The plantation hasn't gone away, and it's still controlled by Democrats. You know what that plantation is? It's called welfare. They're dependent. The average person who's on welfare feels like, well, in the beginning you feel like a queen or a king. You're entitled. But slowly but surely, when you're dependent upon someone giving you a fish, and you can't get it for yourself, you have to do as you're told. And you have to vote for what has now enslaved you, because you're enslaved because you can't be free. Now you're frustrated. And what happens when you're frustrated? You take drugs. When you have no life, no future, no freedom. It's a different kind of plantation, you see. Now, having said all that, now you fight me if you want to. Okay, now, we're talking about principles. In order for our country to recover, you need to understand a few simple ideas. I'm going to present it to you, and then I'm going to take my first call here from Alaska, because I had a call last night, and I spoke to a person with the same problem, and he was dead from the neck up. He had the same kind of problem, grand mal seizures, and he couldn't hear me because he's 60, he's 2 years old, I believe, and he's on welfare, but he didn't tell me. So if he recovers, if he understands, if he understood me and recovered from and got back to normal, he won't know what to do. He's become dependent on welfare, disability. And disability can disable you, and become dependent upon people who nurture the disability, and that person you vote in. See, it's so simple. And if you have enough people doing that, you lose your country. And that's how we will become a slave state to people who, when there's more of them receiving disability that we are paying for, and when there's more of them, breed more of them. That's what they do, is breed more of them. And the kind of people up there know what they're doing to end the country, America as you know it. And so when you have more of them than us, working class people and entrepreneurs, there's a hatred towards us, a jealousy. They can be made to look at us as we're getting money and they're not getting enough, that they're better off than us, and their mentality is like that. And then there'll be a civil war. You've got to face the kind of government you have. You've got to face it. Otherwise, we'll be facing each other and killing each other. And that's what he's up to. Okay, so now, let me go to, since I've done a little political something or other, I will take my first call on the subject of helping you to overcome problems. I want to say it one more time. All of your problems, let me name just a few. Cardiovascular disorders, heart problems, cancer, dementia, autoimmune diseases, which includes diabetes and stuff like that, smoking, drinking, and drugs. If I could just help 40 million, if I can get to 40 million drug addicts that the cartels are fighting over in Mexico. Yeah, they're fighting over your bloody miserable carcasses. But that's been set up. The school has done that. Your I can't find the words for it. Union teachers have done that. But they've also been brainwashed. Brainwashers creating brainwashed. It's a chain of command. It's a chain of command that can sweep this country if we're not careful. But we need the news. We need to have the news from the left. We need to have the mainstream media chastised for hiding everything that's rotten and glorifying everything that's rotten. Glorifying everything that's rotten, character assassinating everybody who's decent, and glorifying dictators. That's what happened to North Korea, roughly. And pretty soon we will have a country like that with no one to rescue us. If whatever happens to America, lights go out for thousands of years. No one's going to rescue us. I don't think God would be bothered to rescue us right now, except for a few people, except for the chosen he will, I suppose. All right, now let's take our first call. Well, before I take my first call, I just missed something out. If I can help you overcome your traumas and your sicknesses, all your sicknesses come from trauma. Nearly all of them. But when I want to include all of them, I mean your immune system becomes compromised, and so that you have those disorders, immune deficiency or disorders, maybe I didn't use the right words, but like cancer, for example, autoimmune disorders. The body fights itself. But when the immune system is compromised, it lets in all kinds of diseases that it would otherwise throw off. So stress has a factor down the road whereby diseases you wouldn't have or your immune system could take care of. So that eventually you all become very, very sensitive and open to the small things. The small things. One of these days we will have a dilemma. Some small bug which we can normally deal with will be let loose on this country, or just appear as often they do, and wipe out half the country, maybe more. Why? Drinking, drugs, stressed immune system, etc. Do I need to say more? I say the survival these days, we are different times as in the olden times. The principle is the same, but here is the last days. And the last days will say this, and I'll say it to you. The survival of the fittest will be the survival of the most noble, centered person, centered in God. And doesn't mean to say Christians will be any better off, because I think most Christians give Jesus a bad name. Sorry to say that, but it's true. Now I'll take my first call. Now, 800-866-8883. Now we'll take a call. I'm sorry, I repeat myself. Slade in Alaska. Hello, Slade.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm fine. I just wanted to get that off my chest.
No problem. You're the king of teaching one patient.
Thank you.
So, recently just read Hypnotic States of America.
Yes, that's a good book.
And you've helped me over the last 6 months. And I've had 3 seizures over the last month in April.
Yes.
And last time you talked to me, you told me, and through the books that I've read, you said that pain that I'm feeling is because you said meditate, and I did it three months now.
So you have the meditation. Let's discuss.
Yes,
let's discuss now. Since you are doing it, let's discuss the machinery of grand mal seizures. Now, have you been to a doctor? I just want to make sure you are attended by a doctor.
Yep, and they said that I look 100% okay and completely healthy. There's nothing wrong with my brain, except when I was younger, I was a tester child for Ritalin and was a drug addict until 27.
Yes.
And I've been clean and sober for the last 14 years.
That's good.
So, and I'm trying not to look in the rear mirror at all that trauma. I've let it go. And
well, maybe you are doing it, but let me discuss it with you. Did you hear my discussion with a gentleman last night?
I did not.
Because I talked to a gentleman who blocked me in every way, and he had the same question. I couldn't get to him, but I was hoping that somebody would hear me through that person. And I'm happy you called about it, because it will give me another chance to help a person who, when I couldn't help him because of his stubbornness. And I won't go into that. Anybody who heard that could just say, well, it's normal to be this way and normal to be that way, and you can't control your emotions, and it's okay to be upset. All that kind of stuff went on with him, and I just couldn't get past. But I had to talk about the machinery for someone who was listening, might be listening out there, and there you are. So I think you're open. So don't go away. I'll take you after the break, and we'll have a nice chat. And everybody, fasten your seatbelts. It's a lot about you, too, and what I'm about to say to my friend here. Hello, here I am again, and I am the producer of my own show. In the manner of speaking, I I don't have promptings or people sending me stuff as a rule. David sends me little clips and this or that. But most of it, I listen to the news and try to apply the downfall of America to the downfall of us, individually. See, one person does not bring a country down, but if everybody has the same disease and loss of freedom, if it could be spread, if everybody can be stressed in some way, and stressed by a single source, like government can stress you. Government can be your enemy. You could have post-traumatic stress disorder. You can have the Stockholm syndrome with your government. And that's when the wrong people get into power. It's usually elected by the majority of wrong people anyway. You can't, a noble people, you can't conquer. But if you have an ignoble people, they will elect an ignoble government, president, which we have right now. And he will breed more of them than what's left of us. And so, if you can be stressed in such a way that it's exponential from the top, you will have what you call Stockholm syndrome. Some of us will rebel, but you cannot successfully rebel from conforming, because you lose your ability to, you lose your way some way. And we need to talk about this when we get back on the other side of the program. But when you are stressed, you've got two choices. You conform. That's what you call the Stockholm syndrome. You love the person. You fall in love or even marry the person or elect them, the one that has messed you up. It's a very strange phenomenon, but I know how it works. You may be bonded to a person right now, as in the Stockholm syndrome, which they called it, which is hypnotic state. You cannot free yourself from that. You keep trying to make it work with the person that's messing your brain. But then there are those who rebel, but they're not creative rebels, they're destructive rebels, and they will always lose. And so you lose your freedoms when you lose your, in the process of stresses, you start to get ill. Your marriage breaks. The problems with marriage, the problems with mental illness, every kind of problem in the world happens because of stress. If I could show you how to deal with stress properly, if I can show you where the lifeline of all human beings lies within you, all your problems, nearly all of your physical problems and mental problems will go away, and you will be a free nation and have none of those diseases fall upon you. Okay, I'm Roy Masters. A donation would be helpful, thank you.
Listening to Adviceline with Roy Masters. Call Roy at 1-800-866-8883.
Yes, be ashamed if you're a Democrat. I would say the same thing about Christianity and Judaism to them for the most part. They don't represent Moses very well. I'm Jewish, and I don't go to synagogue. I don't want to be brainwashed. And same with Christians. They act out that part without understanding what Jesus came for and not really finding the machinery of their mind, not really discovering how to solve their problems that grace has given them. So let me just start with my first caller here. I'm tending to go on a a long journey away from my caller, so let me take my caller again. Slade, are you still there? Let's talk about your problem, shall we?
Real quickly, I wanted to say 90% of one's answers are in the books. Start off with Adam and Eve syndrome.
Absolutely.
And go from there. And you'll get 90% of your answers.
That's correct. I have it in front of me. I'm tempted to read something out of it, but I'd much rather fall all over the place and speak from my heart, you know. It's much smoother to read from here, but you have a specific problem that you will not find in the book exactly. So let's attend ourselves to that. Now, I think you're beginning to understand from what I hear that you see that hostility, resentment, or specifically judgment could be behind your problem.
Yes. The Secret Power of Words is the book that I'm wrapped into now.
That's good. Could you tell me, how old are you now, by the way?
39.
And how long have you had this?
Since I was 17.
So, what kind of a series of events can you trace that might have started turning you against one of your parents or somebody? What Go ahead.
The root
yes.
cause is what you're saying?
Yes. What up to 17, the certain circumstances, degrading, demoralizing circumstances took place.
Sex, losing my virginity too early, sexual encounters between me and my mother, and molestation, and drugs, and leaving home too early.
Does your mother encourage you to that?
Yes.
So your mother was a very disturbed woman.
Yes, and you sent me back to my mother last October and suggested I hand this back over to her because
yes.
it was not mine.
Yes. Did you do that?
I did. I went to Arizona, and I spent a week with her, explained it, put it all out in front of her, and told her that I did not hold I was not blaming her, but this was not mine to carry for her anymore, and handed it back.
And what was the reaction?
She's falling apart.
That's good. That's good. Falling apart. Don't worry about falling apart because she may not die from it.
Right.
But what has to fall apart is what destroyed you. It had what was in her got to you. Mm-hmm. She compromised you and demoralized you and degraded you, and there must have been a lot of anger and rage in there. Correct.
And then I married at 18, someone just like my mother. Been married for 20 years, and then read the Adam and Eve syndrome. Been divorced a year.
So you've only been doing this listening to me for about 6 months?
Yes. A customer gave me your books. I'm an entrepreneur.
Oh, you are? May I ask what kind? Well, I better not ask you any personal questions.
I'm a window cleaner, pressure washing, high dusting. I do Denali parts. I'm not on welfare. No, that was when I was younger, at 18, 19, just starting out, tried the medicines, and went a different direction. I realized I was already too deep in the hypnotic state.
That's exactly right. The stress of life is a hypnotic state. And do you still struggle with thoughts?
With what?
Do you still struggle with thoughts?
Faults.
Thoughts, thinking. Ruminate with your thinking.
I do, because I felt like I created the seizures to escape when things got too out of control, whether I was too high.
No, I don't think. No, I think we need to stop there, if you don't mind. You did not create those seizures. You're taking possession of something that is not yours to possess. Those seizures came as a result of suppressed judgments. In other words, I've often used the term when I talk to people like yourself who have very bad parents, let's put it that way, she's not a good parent, regardless of she can help. She couldn't help it either, but still, she's not a good parent. So
it's not handed down to her.
Yeah, that's right. So the thing is, when a person like yourself is dealt a heavy blow by a parent, a father or mother, it is something in your head can take responsibility, and you could be left with taking care of your mother in her old age out of her guilting you into doing it. Now, that wasn't your path, but there's a terrible guilt, and so that when thoughts come to your mind, you tend to want to take possession of them as a noble person should. But I'm asking you not to take possession of that, because if you do, you'll never get cured of it.
Right.
In other words, your mother could no more help being what she became because of her bad horrors of her life. She wasn't born that way, so you can't lay that to her. Correct?
Right.
And you weren't born that way. So I can't, knowingly, I know this, I can't lay that to you, and I don't want you to lay that to yourself. I don't want you berating yourself and bravely taking what isn't yours to take upon. You are a victim of that. I don't want you to be a victim, but you are victimized, and you need to realize you're victimized. And the grand mal seizure, now, I'm just speculating, but usually I'm right about these things. When you were a little boy, or when you were younger, at some point, you made up your mind, and your mind spoke to you this way: when I grow up, I'm not going to be like my mom or dad. I'm going to be the very best person I can possibly be. Something like that, right?
Very young, maybe 4.
but before, at 4 years old, you were still going through hell. See that? You're still in the presence of that mother who by her very presence is corrupting you, violating you.
Right, and you suggested I hand all that back and then go straight to Spirit, God.
Okay,
and you helped me turn that pain around, because I thought that I was not supposed to be in pain. And then through your books, you say, if you ask God for repentance and you feel that pain, then that means, in essence, He's listening.
Say that again.
Ask for repentance, for forgiveness. And in doing so, it's not going to be bright and colorful. It will be painful, but you have to walk through that in order to get through the other side.
It's a good pain. It's a good pain.
Yeah.
There's good pains and bad pains, and there's good pleasures and bad pleasures.
Pain.
Yes.
I'm not manipulating the pain and being a victim of it and hurting the ones around me that love me, my kids.
You are right on the mark. Now let's go back to the point when you said I had to create that seizure. You explain it. You say it yourself. You say it in your own terms. Say that so I can hear it.
I felt like I needed an escape from reality, so I went into a seizure.
Well, what you didn't make yourself go into a seizure. I don't think anybody could. But the seizure came, and you used it as an escape from reality, to blank out.
Right.
See that? So you rode on it, but you didn't create it. It was a result of repressed emotions that you couldn't deal with. As a little child, from a little child on upward, how can you possibly deal with that anger and hostility without going crazy or, so the tendency as a victim, a child is always a victim to parents.
Can the emotions be gone, but the program still be the residue left over?
Oh, good question. Let me put it this way. This is how the machinery works. Let me reinforce it. You are on the way to getting better. Am I correct?
Yes, I changed diet. Eat no evil.
And so you're changing your diet?
Yes.
One of these days I'm going to give a talk on diet, because I have a pretty rigid one, and it's helped me. But attitude is the most important. So here is the key. the meditation, you don't have to ask for salvation, basically. It's so simple. The very fact that you close your eyes and look at that point in the middle of your forehead by looking at your eyelids, that's how you come to it. Mm-hmm. Okay, and then your fingers are tingling.
Yep.
By that very simple gesture. If it is in you to want redemption, you don't have to utter a word. If it is in you in the spirit, no matter how broken you are and twisted you are, how sick you are, if it's in your soul to really always, it's almost like I was born with wanting to know. I can remember my first words. They were not words, they were sort of thoughts that you can sort of turn into words, and which I have to do right now. It's all it said to me when I was a little boy, maybe 9 months old. I couldn't even speak yet. I remember that moment in that quietness when I was a baby. I remember it was a baby because I couldn't speak. But I said, what am I here for? And something said, you'll know. But that something put it in me to say it. And something put it in you made you special. And I know you have that inside you all your life. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. So no matter what has befallen you, all the suffering, that's still there. And when you're ready, and when you find that you can't fix it yourself, you start to search. You found me. I get that. That's good. And there aren't too many people like myself, and I'm glad you found me. But what is in me, you recognize. That's the reason why you're following me, because what I'm saying to you, all I'm doing is bearing witness to that little seed you have inside you called, well, doesn't have a name. It's only
the light.
Yeah, but it's what am I here for? It's a question that has a redemptive answer. It's a little tiny mustard seed in there. It is a potential connection that I can talk to, and when I talk to it through all your suffering, when I talk to and explain to you how the suffering takes place, it says, "Oh, I've never seen that before," but I'm going to tell you what one of those things are right now. Are you ready? Mm-hmm. For every day of your betterness, your cure comes this way. Hold it. I'll be right back. Don't go away. We'll finish off our discussion in the last 10 minutes. I'll have enough time to tell you that. I'm Roy Masters. We'll be right back. Yes. Hello, everyone. Welcome once again to the program. My name's Roy Masters, and I'm talking to a gentleman who has grand mal seizures, and I just want you to listen, because what I'm about to say to him applies to you. It not applies to everybody. It not only applies to the freedom from illness of almost every kind. I think in the Bible, let me see, it was Moses, and he spoke in such a way that if you follow these commandments, you will have none of these diseases, and it gives a list of diseases as known that day. I can distinctly remember it's something like that. If you follow God and find redemption, none of these diseases will fall upon you. Now that is true. And that, in other words, but the diseases that fall upon you come from your failing to deal with the world around you. In other words, you become subject. Your loyalty is transferred somewhere near the day you were born, if not the day you were born, by parents or the culture into which you were born. And that transference gives you a different loyalty to the world rather than to what you know is right in your heart, and your inability to deal with stress. And the best you can do is to relieve your stress, is to abuse somebody else and take it out on somebody else. That releases it, but then you do harm, and you create another clone like yourself. And you're not any better because you become addicted to the perverse pleasure of such behavior. The other choice is to suppress it. There is no other way. You will suppress it and put on a good face. And that's what we need to understand. If you're going to get better, mentally, emotionally, and physically. You have to learn what I'm about to tell this gentleman when we come back from out of the break. Please buy my books, ones he mentioned. But before you buy a book, get Be Still and Know in the form of Cure Stress device. It's a little device, and the reason why I recommend it, because if you've been addicted to, especially if you've been addicted to music, and you have those earphones in your ears, the music has got deeply into you because there's no gap between you and the source. And so put the earphones on with a Cure Stress device that fits in your wallet and your...
You're listening to Adviceline with Roy Masters. Call Roy at 1-800-866-8883.
You just sit quietly and close your eyes while I'm talking to you. Do you mind? It's easier. And shut out. And can make your fingers tingle as I'm talking, so it will put you in concert to the light that's in both of us. I just want to talk to you as a father you never had. And so you don't even have to ask for salvation, because that idea, what am I here for, has it all. It's like the grain of mustard seed. It has the DNA, the original DNA that it evolves. All it has to be become is made alive by the Creator. And so, when I said you don't have to even ask for redemption, the very fact that you close your eyes and cause your fingers to tingle as you know how to do it, creates a dynamic that shifts your consciousness back so that you are no longer looking or no longer entangled with your emotional thoughts and struggling with them or repressing them. You're not down there to repress them. They begin to loosen up when you're not down there. You're consciously unconsciously. Consciously suppressing means you consciously push down so you don't remember it and you don't see it, but it's still working. And the stresses involved are still also working on you, which you're still repressing and not realizing that it's almost like a programming that you will repress everything that you can't express. And so the meditation exercise immediately does that without any words being spoken, except be aware of your forehead and make your fingers tingle. And so when you're standing back, when you start to look at you're not looking at your thoughts yet. You actually can't see your thoughts when you're standing back. You're looking at the surface of your brain, so to speak. You're outside the brain box. And out as you step back, there's a relativity involved. You're actually stepping forward towards God, like the prodigal son. You're moving towards him without realizing that's what you're doing. But metaphysically, it's the machinery. And the Father sees you coming, sees you stepping back towards him. And he meets you halfway. And he's overjoyed, and you feel his joy. And that's forgiveness. In other words, you don't have to ask for forgiveness. It happens. And immediately that happens, you become one with him. When you become one with him, the evidence of that is that the next time someone does something wrong to you, well, let's begin to the first thing. You start to see your thoughts, and instead of struggling with them, something says, don't struggle. It's trapped. It's tricking you into struggle. When you ruminate on your thoughts, when you struggle with it, when you struggle with your grand mals and take possession of it, don't take possession of your thoughts. They're not yours. The grand mal is not yours either. It is something of the workings of the thing inside you that keeps you upset about stuff. And something about that whole process that's causing you to suppress thoughts and escape into a fantasy world where you don't have to face for a few minutes the pain of suffering.
When that thought is going by, I have another thought that comes in and says, this is not so. This is let it go by. Don't attach emotion. What is that thought pushing that other one out?
That's the thought you trust, the one that says, don't struggle with it. And it's without saying it, it implies, let me deal with it. Don't get in the way. Don't get in the way and try to fix yourself and save yourself. You cannot save yourself from this Maya. And so what says to you without words, you kind of know it without... You're beginning to become an intuitive person, meaning you know without knowing why you know, but you know that I'm telling you right now that it doesn't come with the words, but you kind of know not to struggle, as if to say, if you struggle with it, then you have to struggle with it. Let me take care of it for you. I will save you. I will deal with that thought. And you just watch that thought, and you're not tempted to struggle. Bingo. It goes away. Phase 2, you find soon after that the next within a short period of time, some little incident will give rise to an irritation. You will then see the irritation you never saw before because you're too busy struggling and repressing. You've been released just a little bit to see that next one in real life, and then you don't lay it to that person all of a sudden, where you would have got upset and suppressed it and put on a good face and had a grand maul because because they all pile up. And when they pile up, the stress will pile up in your body so severely that unless the body will take over the accumulation of stress, because if the consciousness is not able to do it, if the suffering of the consciousness is not able to do it, that the body will take over the process of putting you into creating a hypnotic state where you live in, or an explosion as a seizure. A release of energy. There's another kind of illness, and I can't remember the name of it, but there's where the eyes go up and your eyes go up in your eyelids, and your tongue hangs out, and you're venting all these.
Convulsion.
Yes, a convulsion. That is a release of all that. If that's not released, you would have died that moment. The body takes over what you don't do. From now onwards, that journey, let me give it to you right now because I'm running out of time. That journey you're taking is every little irritation comes along, watch for it as it appears, and it will always release more. I've got to help you. Hold the line. We've got to go over to the next hour. Don't go away. Okay. I just stuck in the middle of this discussion with this person. I have to give an ad. Could you make an ad for this? I'll just sit back and whistle.
Stress has been linked to all the leading causes of death, such as cardiovascular disease, cancer, accidents, and suicide. Almost 90% of all visits to primary health care providers are due to stress-related problems. Are you ready to be free from stress? Call 855-CURE-STRESS or visit CureStressDevice.com.
It's one of those things that's helped me so much. I mean, I started as I was 31 years old, and I'm 69 now. And I've gone through so many trials and tribulations, on the verge of losing your soul to the many things that happened. And then yet, has always been there to clarify things. And sometimes I'll be listening, a gem just shines through, and it really clarifies things.
It's time to be free from the terrible effects of stress. Call 855-CURE-STRESS. That's 855-CURE-STRESS. Or go to CureStressDevice.com and order the Cure Stress device. Call 855-CURE-STRESS. Or visit CureStressDevice.com.
I spoke to your father one time in about 1986. I'm a hemophiliac, and I was dealing with lots of bleeds at the time, lots of problems. And I listened, and I gradually grew with the meditation. And I can only say that so many times in my life I've been in pain or bleeding. I've used the meditation to deal with this problem. And I'm still going. I'm 65. Life's still good, still fun. I just really wanted to call to say thank you. It helped me make peace with the problems and just become part of it and realize it was just not fight it.
It's time for Adviceline. Call now at 800-866-8883. That's 800-866-8883. Here's your host, Roy Masters.
This is very awkward. I'm working under difficult conditions, and there's a sort of restraint, and there's every now and then I have to give a commercial for, to help you, guide you to where you need to go to get the help you need. But I'm dealing with a very serious problem, and with a gentleman. His name is Slade or Blade? I can't read it from here. It's Slade, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm talking to Slade, and I believe I'm getting very close to something he needs to know, but it is so refined that it's difficult to say. And in this point of the radio program, we've only got about 4 minutes left, so I'm loath to continue, but just to sort of muddle through it so I can get to the other side. And Slade, please forgive me. I would like to take you right away, but I think you can wait till I get about 20 minutes, 25 minutes to the next break, and this will give me ample time to not be in a hurry to help you with your problem. Is this all right with you, Slade?
Yes.
Okay, because this is a very serious problem. By the way, while you're waiting for me to continue on discussing the subject with me, I'm going to give you, my son will give you my cell phone number and my home number, and if you ever have one of those the Grand Mall things you're talking about,
right?
I know what they are, but you have a connection to me without you realizing it. You have a connection to me, and if you have one of those, make sure the people you live with. Are you living alone?
No, my son lives with me.
Who?
My son.
Your son's with you. Make sure he has my phone number, and put the phone to your ear. Okay. He must also do what medicine requires of him to do. But when you're into one of those things, that is the place where I can help you the most.
Right. No medicines. I don't. No medicine. And another thing I was going to ask you is, so now that the spirit is coming in for the first time in 39 years, where does that leave the hypnotic, entitled, spoiled animal?
The very fact that you are, the very moment with your that mustard seed, I call it. Let's call it a mustard seed. That part of you that's longing to know what purpose is that you wish to serve it. And I don't think you, as a little child, you actually can add to that thought. But that is the animal feels like it needs the MP3 player in its ear, otherwise it will have a seizure. But that's right. So now you're absolutely correct, because the way we help you is I've divided you into the MP3 player divides you into two parts. It causes the soul to be freed from the animal. I'm glad you picked that word. That's exactly right. Your body is an animal.
Distracted from reality.
That's right. And reality is intuition, and that we're talking about intuition and a higher ascendancy, or understanding descending into you through your consciousness, your liberated consciousness. Now, let me just discuss this liberated consciousness. The moment you close your eyes, so this is something so simple that if ministers and rabbis and imams all over the world would suddenly become illuminated and show everybody how simple it is to find their God. We all have the same God, and in every language, this process that I'm talking to you would happen. Everybody, except those who are very stubborn, there are those who will never find the truth, like the wicked, the thief on the cross. One was a good person, couldn't help himself, but he was redeemed. Jesus says, "This day you shall be with me in paradise." And the other one says, "If you're so smart, to get yourself off the cross." So that one you can forget. There are people like that.
And I wanted to say real quickly, like you said, I've been talking with you for 6 months, and you said to meditate, and until I read the book Eat No Evil, I called it shooting all over myself.
Yes.
I should meditate. I should do this, what Roy's saying. I should all over myself, right?
Yes. Yeah. I know what it sounds like, but it isn't that way.
Right. And then I read the book Eat No Evil and changed my diet from that book and was able to active my shoulds. I should sit down 30 minutes a day after my day's over and do the meditation. And I've done it consistently for the last 3 months, even though I had 3 grand mal seizures.
Hold the line. Now after this break, we can really sit down and talk with each other. And you, I like you talking to me this way. You talk back to me anytime you feel it is valuable.
Call Roy at 800-866-8883 between the hours of 9 p.m. and 11 p.m. West Coast time.
The foundation of human understanding teaches an observation exercise, often called meditation, which permits you to become objective toward your problems and allows your heartaches, bad habits, fears, and anxieties to be completely eliminated from your life without effort on your part. Until you have begun to practice this exercise, much of what you see and hear on the following program may be shocking and upsetting to you. But if you will listen calmly and with an open mind, you may discover the key to the peace of mind and joy for which you've been searching all of your life. And now, from the foundation of human understanding, here is Roy Masters.
Yes, our audience has a bated breath, or they've tuned me out. Either way, it's okay with me. I'm talking to Slade from Alaska, and he has these grand moles, and he's starting to get better. And so, are you still there, Slade? Would you just say what you said a few moments ago, and I'll pick it up from there?
You've been helping me over the last 6 months, and up until about the last month and a half, I call what you would call shoulding all over myself. I should do this. I should do the meditation. I should do that. And until I read your book, Eat No Evil, and changed my diet, I wasn't able to do that. After I did that consistently for a month, started eating better, stopped all the processed and everything like that, back to the garden eating, I was able to sit down.
Now, isn't that beautiful? Isn't that a beautiful thing? Because it's so difficult for everyone to understand how addictive and how sinful food can be, how seductive.
How it all is addictive.
Yes.
I'm having a harder time getting off my MP3 player than I did from heroin when I was 27.
But you're not speaking about the one with the cure stress device.
No, I haven't got that one yet. That's my hope for next week.
Oh, you do not have my CD.
I do have your CD, but I don't have the little card that you speak of.
Oh, that would make it easier for you.
Yeah, the headphones. I have the CD.
Okay, now let's go from here. I said to you that if you should have, I want to make you special here. And I said I want you to make sure that you have my cell phone. My son will give it to you. And also my private phone. So that your son, if you have a grand mal, immediately call me and listen what I will do. I will call you out of it. That would be an important moment, if you would please consider allowing me to do that.
I'll get a dog tag made up and wear it. Roy Masters, Paul.
Yeah, that's right, but tell your son that I need to be there, and I can't be there in flesh, but I can be there in spirit. And I'll put the phone to your ear and let me say these things to you. I will say something to you, and you will hear it. And I will call you back from that state, because you've taken a condition caused by stress, and which causes unconsciousness, and sort of went down the hole with it. So I don't want you to think that you created your grand mals. It's the reaction of an animal in conflict with its human. So that the minute you start being demoralized by your parents and all the other circumstances that sort of tag along, and you get handed from one person to another, and every person adds a little bit more to it. Every person who looks like your mother and speaks like your mother, and dresses like your mother, the colors, everything, all these things continuously are little shocks that keep you going down.
Right. And that's all in looking in the rear mirror as a victim. I'm not looking in the rear mirror anymore.
You're a whole lot better now. But here's how but there's still the future. Now there's the road in front of you. And the road in front of you is going to contain all of the above that you're looking in the rear view mirror about. You follow that? There are people, places, and things that are just mean and cruel and thoughtless. It's everywhere. And they can't help themselves.
That's where the secret power of words come in, and not playing ring toss, energy ring toss.
Okay, that makes sense. But and I know that you're understanding these books. That's a beautiful thing. That saves me a lot of words. See, but the road ahead is where you are redeemed and where your sickness goes away incrementally. In some people, it goes away just like that. In other people, the conditioning has to take time to die. Now, if you have a tree and the last leaf to appear will disappear or die if the roots are destroyed. So if the roots are starved of nourishment, the last leaf on the tree will be the one that goes first, because it's the furthest away from nutrients. See that? So what's going to happen? The worst will go away first. It will start going away, but by increments. And so every time you have an opportunity, every time the word opportunity is wrong, but every time you are coming into a circumstance where someone is going to trigger that irritation, you must watch for a little thing called irritation. Now let's call it this a little like someone scratching on a chalkboard. Something that is something about a person, something about maybe you hit your finger, your thumb with a hammer and hit the wrong nail, your own one, and then you go angry, you get irritated.
Right. You speak of that in the books, how you react emotionally.
So you need to watch for it wherever it comes from. But you will be able to, because the meditation will keep your consciousness from being entangled with emotions which blind you from seeing these things. And in addition, makes you worse, because you're experiencing what you should be overcoming. Follow that?
Yes.
Okay. So it is incremental now. You're going to get better as you... Listen how the Lord's Prayer says, forgive us our trespass as we forgive those who trespass against us. Do you hear that as?
As.
In other words, you have already been forgiven, and the evidence that you've been forgiven is that you have conscious control over the next circumstance.
So
and the next one. And the next one. Huh?
It's up to me to be patient, persistent, and accountable to the reaction of emotion?
But no, not quite. You will have the gift. Let's say you're an alcoholic, right?
Right.
The two things will happen if you're an alcoholic. It happens two ways. You suddenly become not compatible with alcohol. Bingo. You've lost it, and you don't know where it went. Where you couldn't stop before, you can't start. You cannot do the wrong thing when you are conscious. I often do a program people call with cigarettes, so it's very noticeable with cigarettes on the radio. So I put them through that little exercise that I've just spoke about, what you do. And then I say, now try to smoke, take a cigarette and try to smoke it. They can't. Or it becomes so bitter they want to throw it away. So let's take the alcoholic again and say, what will happen? He's either doesn't want this. He doesn't want that alcohol. He's not compatible with that anymore. He's saved. He doesn't need alcohol to save him, to give him the illusion of salvation. That's what you've got. When you have no salvation, you have to have the illusion of salvation. And your grand mal, when you go into it, it's the illusion of salvation. It's the only salvation you know. You don't need that anymore. You're already saved, believe me. And you believe what I'm telling you. You actually believe that you're already saved, because you are already getting better. You have all the markings of it.
Where is the ego sitting in this?
The ego's the ego, the dark side, which is attached to you. When you get upset, when you are violated and traumatized by something serious, as you've spoken to me about, not only is the body captured, but you become infected. You become infected with the identity of the person who did it to you. And even if it isn't a person, a voice can say to you as a little child, "Go ahead and take that $1 from Dad's table. Then you can buy yourself a little airplane. You've always wanted one, and there's an impulse to take it. And when you take it, and the father says, 'Did you take that $1? The pain is so great.' You say, 'Johnny made me do it.' You project it somewhere else. Follow that?
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't have to be a person. It could be something attacks you that way.
So what is the music? The MP3 player stuck in my ear from wake time to sleep time.
No, I didn't understand the question about that, the MP3 player. I don't know about that, what you're talking about.
What is it an addiction? Is it it's a distraction?
Are you talking about music? Are you talking about music? Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You see, your music is meant to... You're going to use every means to... The dark side will put you in a state so that everything will work together as one. Drugs, alcohol, music, especially music, because if you play music and you get lost into music, you can't hear your conscience, and it's like salvation. It gives you relief. It's as though it's made you think of your conscience as becoming your enemy, when it's really your friend, and it's the enemy that's giving you the music, the crazy music, to keep you stupefied. See, to keep it.
The first 2 weeks doing meditation, I couldn't do it without listening to some sort of calm music, even in the background.
But please don't do that anymore.
Right. I was able to turn it off. I finally got comfortable enough to be able to sit a half hour without it.
That's the idea.
But even when I go for a walk around the block, I want to hear the birds and stuff like that. But I get scared when it's not there. And I picked up a book that was the first book about seizures from 1937, and it said seizures are a fear disease.
Well, yes, but let's not talk about that, because Caesars are not as brave as they think. Caesars are great bullies.
Right.
They're Saddam Hussein's who overcome their fears by causing greater fear of them.
So a controller.
It's an addiction. In other words, they feel secure when they make you insecure. When you're frightened of them, they lose their fear, because their fear that you are in control. When a person can't control himself, he will control others. When he can't control his own upset, he will vent the upset and make other people upset and exploit that. You see that? And find a perverse temporary relief of pleasure. See that?
Right. And if you were to ask me, what are you afraid of? What is this? It always falls back to, I'm afraid of having a seizure. Is someone seeing me? Nothing else comes to mind anymore. For the last 6-7 months, it has all been, I don't want that.
All right. But let's keep it nice and simple.
Okay.
Let's keep it nice and simple so that we get you out of the way. Now, here's my words. We get you out of the way. Get your consciousness, that voice that tells you about this and that. The things that you said that you're responsible for what am I going to do? I'm going to feel embarrassed. You need to look at those thoughts. It doesn't matter where it is, you'll be fine. It doesn't mean I would stay close to home for the next, few months, if I were you. It won't hurt you. Stay close. And make sure.
I remember I live in Alaska. I've been close to home for the last 6 months. It's been winter and dark.
Oh, that's right. So then it goes without saying, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But now, so the simplicity of this is that because you were imprinted and possessed, the word is correct. In other words, it wasn't you doing these things. It was something, an identity. You have an identity crisis, and this identity crisis is caused by the shock of what happened between you and your mother, and so on and so forth, and made worse by your overreacting to the world and everything. Because once the reaction begins, it begets reaction. Reaction. If you can be upset once, it can be easier to upset you twice. If you can be upset twice, it's easier to upset you the third time, and it takes less and less and less to do it. And when you get too much of it, it will blow your mind, so to speak. You go crazy. Mm-hmm. And I've seen people go crazy, but not knowing how to deal. Want to kill people, run around killing people, or then kill themselves. That's how bad it gets. So, but yours has arranged itself where you escape into the build-up of pressure. And so this animal cannot help but react and obey its master. And so when you have been corrupted, these two things happen. You become conditioned hypnotically. That's trauma. But what the spirit of the person, in this case your mother, the spirit of the person that traumatized you not only conditioned your body, started to be responsive, but it laid the foundation of reacting, so that it can get to your soul and attach itself to your soul and talk to you as if it was your own thoughts. And that's what's called doubt. And that makes you think to struggle with your own thoughts, tricks you into struggling with your own thoughts. So you end up struggling with your mother or whatever it is bothering you, and anything you struggle with entangles you more with it, and you get worse. And it's that rumination that eventually leads to the grand mal seizures, plus the stress and the rumination. So if you had a brand new car and somebody banged into it right away, you may go home and all night you'll be cursing that person. Maybe at the moment you may not notice it. When you go home and you see your car damaged, a brand new car, you saved up all your money for all your life, and now you try to sleep. And round and round and round, the scene goes round and round and round. So you imagine lots of things like that going right. If it wasn't a thing, one thing is another thing, over and over again. People die from rumination. So the endless loops of thoughts, because what it does is what I said it does. It creates the liver. It causes the liver to produce. I think it's an enzyme that helps to deal with the stress. But if you keep ruminating, reliving it, it turns to poison. And you will die from that. So the liver becomes your enemy after a while. You're putting too much pressure.
Liver on the back right side of your body?
I think it's on your right side of your body. You got only one liver.
Right.
And I don't know exactly where to put, but it doesn't matter. You said the doctor.
About the last 2 weeks, I know there's been a pain that is not my spine. It's off to the right of it. And
you need to have a doctor check that out.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's always a use for a doctor, but where I'm going, doctors cannot go.
Right.
So we are getting better, and so now. You need to let go of the idea that you've brought anything on yourself.
Okay.
It was brought upon you, and it's called, the Bible says it quite clearly, you're born into sin. Through one man, sin, hypnotic states, subservience, all who sin are slaves. That's what hypnosis is. You're a slave of the people who seduce you, upset you. That's what it is. Everybody in the world is in that state. And everybody else is subject to disease and acting out and doing unto others what's done to them. They can't help themselves, the chain of command. So through one man, sin, and death through sin entered the world. And through one man, the promise is sin goes out of the world. See that? And what does this man do? What does this person do? I'm a Jewish person, but I believe it, because I know it experienced it. What does this man come to do? He's come to restore our faith in God. Adam doubted God. So that all the generations have the seed of Adam, which is impure, so that men cannot save themselves, and the suffering of the world continues, and slowly but surely a hue and cry comes for a Savior, and the Savior comes. And the Savior has to spread, has to become the cure of the evil of the world. It has to begin with him. And 2,000 years of Christianity has lost him. And,
for sure.
And they have. And the problem with America today, if I may just divert a little bit, is because Christians are weak and feeble. Not all, but too many people.
But like you speak, we put our wives on the pedestal.
That's
before
right.
God, and then read Adam and Eve syndrome right after understanding sexuality, and then go from there.
Well, see, but the point is, what he's going to give, he's giving the message and putting himself the cross and putting himself through every kind of humiliation and not hating the hurter. And he cries out, "Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do." So you have to forgive your mother. Since you've been forgiven, you will be able to let go of what your mother and everybody else has done to you, and you've got a clean slate. No, but the conditioning needs to be addressed, but because your body is an animal and the conditioning, but now you have control of your conditioning. When you are forgiven, you have a relationship with God, which is what is in you. As the old saying is, who is in me, God, the God in me is greater than that which is within you. I don't know if I said it quite correctly, but what is in me is greater than what is in everybody else who hasn't got it. What is in you has the power to neutralize, to catch things in the bud, in the moment. The key to becoming a human, a well, healthy human being, a spiritual being, is the evidence of catching subtle irritations that you would never otherwise notice, and that would get you and pile up and make you ill and take your freedom away at the same time. What makes you ill and takes your freedom away, it also takes your freedom away. Because if you could deal with the stress of life, if you hadn't got that stressed out start from your parent, you came into the world, and the Bible says you were born into sin. Now let's take the word "in" out and put it into. It makes sense. You're born into a culture that your parents are immersed in, and their parents are immersed in, and great parents are immersed in, and goes all the way back to Paradise Lost. And we all do to each other what was done to us, and it is generational. Nobody can help it. You're all victims, but victims no more. You can't help it. You're going to have to suffer until you cry out for the truth that makes you free. And that's not very far away from you. It's within you, and to be still and know. Go into your closet, sit still. But they've forgotten. The information of how to sit still is forgotten, and you've got all kinds of mantra crap. See that? Mantras? And all kinds of moaning and different kinds of breathing and all nonsense. It is
placebo effects out the door.
There you go. So now you will be able to see enough in the next moment where irritation would have got you. You would see it coming, and it goes away. It's like the alcoholic who opens his eyes for the first time and starts to see the impulse to drink, and all of a sudden he finds he can say no to it and does, where he couldn't do it before. Now you can say no to stress, where you couldn't do it before. And every time you do that, one day after another, you are becoming perfect. You're dealing with imperfect people perfectly. Deal with imperfect people perfectly. Every single moment, that is your cure. I had to stay with that gentleman. I'm sorry. There's more I could say, but I have another caller, and it's relevant. And Slade, please, if you're still listening, remember you're special to me. If you have one of those seizures, the chances are they'll get less and less, but I would like the opportunity for me to be there on the telephone. I want to call you out of it. I have done it before, and I know what to do. Okay? And no doctor will be able to arouse you. I want to arouse you through me speaking to you. And you will be able to hear me down there. Okay? And if I'm not there, you'll be okay anyway, but I would prefer to just make it a little easier on you and hasten your recovery. All right, now, I've spent a lot of time with Slade, but a lot of what I've said applies to you. You are not free when you're ill. And the illness may creep up on you slowly but surely. Let's say, for example, you have a headache, but the reason for the headache is you're impatient with your children. You have an Excedrin headache. I don't think they use that anymore, but it makes a point. Now, an aspirin can be valuable, but in this case, you are masking the fact that you're impatient with your children. And then there's the schoolmaster. I've seen the commercials, and they're very good analogies. The schoolmaster is having trouble with the kids. He's getting impatient with them, and they're laughing at him. So he takes an Excedrin, and he has a nicer disposition. That's where it begins. It begins with little temptations like an aspirin for a headache that you shouldn't have because you wouldn't have had if you were patient. But you didn't know that impatience was anything wrong with impatience because your parents were impatient and you got grown up to impatience, and when you have children you're impatient with them because that's the way you make the mind. No, that's the way you kill them. Okay? So now, how are we fixed to call my office tomorrow? And here's the number, 800-877-3227. 800-877-3227. If you want to write to order the Cure Stress device, it's $59 postpaid. Post Office Box 1000, Grants Pass, Oregon 97528. My website, I'd rather you go to my website since on Talk Radio Network we give a different website. I have a separate website that just deals with only one item or two, the book Cure Stress and the device, the Cure Stress device. And that's thecurestressdevice.com. That's easy to remember. And the phone number is 855-CURE STRESS. That's a number. But I'm going to give you the number without giving, if you want to remember that, if you can't remember, you don't have a pencil, that's easy to remember. But the number, if you want to have a pencil, write this down. 800-877-3227. That's it. That will get to you. Get to us, I mean. Please get the device that puts a little device that you carry around. It's very valuable.
You're listening to Adviceline with Roy Masters. Call Roy at 1-800-866-8883.
But now we'll take our call. Caroline in Pennsylvania. Thanks for waiting, Caroline.
Yes. My question is, I'd like to know what causes our thoughts to drift in the past or in the future and not stay in the moment.
Stress.
So stress.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so when you're stressed, you lose the natural grace. Let me see if I can put words around this. And I have to talk about myself because I am how can I say that? I had to go through the path that you are about to go through in order to speak to you this way. I have to be a living evidence of what I'm saying. And so let me speak about myself. So ask me the question again now. I just got...
What causes our thoughts to drift in the past or in the future and not stay in the present moment?
It is stress. And the fact that you've been stressed before. In other words, if you came into the world and you had perfect parents, which you don't have, a princess mother who understands not to hold a child away from the father and loves the father she can see, so she also therefore loves the father she cannot see. That would be the perfect family. So ideally, and there's almost no such thing, but ideally speaking, you would grow up with grace like a Jesus. You grow up in grace, and once with understanding about yourself, as you grew older, you'd understand that. The way I understand myself is when I react to do something wrong, I used to just a little bit. I would react to something, and I'd see the reaction as wrong. And when I faced the reaction that it was wrong, I knew that reacting was wrong, and so that's what's causing me to have anxiety or this or that, a little bit this or that. That's causing. I can remember one particular moment. I'm in the Institute of Hypnosis. I'm going to share a story. Now, I understand about hypnosis. I understand about the mind of people, and they come to me for that treatment, the way to help them to become a better person by not reacting. One day, something upset me. And so I walked out of the building and went to the local drugstore, and I started to study the fare at the local, when I say fare, the drinks at the local drugstore. And I was studying them, and I found myself studying them. Well, why am I doing that? I'm trying to take my mind off the stress that I've reacted.
I see.
See that?
So what if say like I'm sitting here right now and but I'm not talking to you, but I'm just sitting here, and then my mind would either I wouldn't feel stressed, but my mind would just drift, and it wouldn't stay focused.
Now, do you have the meditation exercise that I?
Oh yes, I do.
All you need to do, this is perfectly normal. You see your mind drifting.
But what causes?
No, you don't want. Don't. It's. So when you have reacted, what is deposited in your mind is what you can't forget. It's unfinished business. Reacting is unfinished business tormenting you.
So when I'm sitting still and say I'm just looking out the window and seeing the trees, and then my mind would drift. It would either think of the past or the future. But then there are times when it would be in the present, which is ideal.
Yes.
But I guess I just wanted to know at the moment why it would just tend to drift. Automatically.
Well, let me go. So let me finish my drugstore story.
Okay.
So then all I said is realize I'm not practicing what I'm preaching here. Now, that's the first time I ever saw that, and I hadn't, up to now, I've been married for several years. I already gone through that stage, but I don't remember what it was, what the circumstance was, but I noted it right away. I saw myself studying those words in a silly way to distract me from the pain of reacting. And the minute I saw it, I said, oh, and it went away. And that's it.
And then you came back to the present moment.
That's the moment. I'm aware of it. I see it. Oh, and when that was up. In other words, that moment, those moments are caused by a weakness I didn't have. In other words, the best way you can learn from life is when an adversary or something stresses you and brings to light what you didn't know about yourself.
Yes.
And that's what you need to say, so your adversaries can actually do you a favor, so you can see what you might not have seen.
I see that, and I think that's beautiful, because it shows you, oh, that's my weakness right there, or whatever, and it's really neat how God just shows you those tiny little things like that.
Yes,
it's amazing.
I'm glad you see that, because actually I have been into very dangerous situations facing gangs and people like that, where a small amount of fear would tend to creep in just a little bit. And I can look at the gang leader, look him straight in the eye, and watch with my mind's eye the little fear trying to get in. And then but I'm not looking at that with my physical eyes, I'm looking at him with my real eyes, but my spiritual eye is noticing that there's that little tiny thing. And as I notice it, it goes away. And all of a sudden, he can't get to me.
Uh-huh.
But it takes stress to bring forth your weakness and overcome it. See, it calls it up. And it sometimes takes sometimes it will take a special moment, maybe a color red. Let's say you were raped in the backseat of a Chevrolet, a red Chevrolet, with a man with a beard, and he's 50 years old, and he's got blue eyes, and it's raining. Raining could irritate you.
Yes.
A red Chevrolet could either irritate you or excite you and think you make falling in love with the person coming out. It's called Stockholm syndrome, but you're drawn to the thing that you're drawn to the things that have corrupted you. So strangely, you're drawn to love in all the wrong places.
Well, why? Where did resentment originate from? Did that originate from Eve?
That's a very good. That's a very, very sharp question. No, resentment. Yes, it did, because sin, whatever sin is, Adam was the ideal man at the time. He was born perfect,
right.
And but the point is, in order for human beings to be unlike animals, to have free will, you have to have something that can free you from free will. Follow that? Maybe I didn't say that right. In other words, would you like for someone to compel you to love them?
No.
It wouldn't be free if they can compel you to love them.
Correct.
So that God is doing a divine experiment. He creates Adam, and he differently from other creatures, and then takes out of him Eve and clones. There's a nice word for it. And then there's the dark side, knowing full well that Adam cannot possibly deal with the dark side. But never mind, he knows no matter how many Adams and Eves he makes, they will all fail. So he makes one. And he gives them the choice between good and evil. He says, of all the trees of the garden you can eat, not that one. And that's the same thing with little children when they want something. When they want something, they'll go crazy and drive you crazy to have it. Or there's an impulse for a little boy to steal $1 from his daddy's night table because a little voice in him tells him, you can have it. You can have something. You can have that $1, and you can buy that little toy you want. It's all there when you're children. When you're a kid, you have that little voice, and you have a little boy saying, encouraging you with that voice. A friend saying, you can take that. See that? I won't say anything. I won't say anything. You'll be okay. Yeah. Your daddy's done it, so everybody does that.
Yes.
But what I'm trying to... go ahead. No, I'll finish. Go ahead.
So did the resentment originate from Eve then, because she resented Adam for not... No, she didn't. Or where does resentment originate?
Eve is one step further away from Adam in the scheme of things, as Eve is now. Every woman born into the world has this side of her that can be enticing and dangerously enticing. You know that, they're difficult. Yes. And men go crazy, and then they go crazy, and then women go crazy themselves. Because there's no order. She irritates. She teases. But it isn't her. It is,
Right.
if I was Eve, if you were Eve and you were newly minted, your mouth would open and close, and you would eat the fruit, but you wouldn't be able to control yourself. And Adam, seeing this, instead of rebuking her, ate it himself. So they both are controlled by the dark side. And so you see that, and that is what you have now, man born of woman. Then it goes on to say, so shall a man leave his mother and father and be joined to his wife as one flesh. That is punishment, because the order should be. See that? So the man. So just to make the point, so that if you're a Christian lady and you come from a good home and you go to a place where the people pressure you and seduce you into smoking a dope, the minute you smoke that dope, because you're a moral person, you can be immoral or you can be moral. And animals are amoral, so it's not a question of how they have no choice but react to environment. But you have some kind of hidden choice of stopping the process of reacting to environment handed to you through the generations. So that women need a man to say, women when they're unreasonable, there's an unreasonable side to everyone, especially women are especially good at it, because they have a certain charm and a pleasure they can give a man and make him feel.
I see, yeah.
See that, you see that. And men must be mature enough to be able to deal with that and say, put the fruit down, Eve. That's not right. That's unreasonable. You can have all the unreasonable things, but that you cannot have. You can't have a fur coat in the middle of summer. See that?
Right.
But she's gripped by that. And if man does not have God in him, if he's not saved, he falls to it every single time.
Oh, I know.
So,
but again, I guess I'm still not getting what. I guess the question is the resentment. Where did it originate?
The resentment is casting blame.
So where did it originate from, though? Like,
so the minute you start to, it originates through your family. It travels through.
So all the way back down to.
All the way back
down to Eve.
Every color, race, and creed. It goes all the way back to that too. And salvation comes likewise through Jesus. Meaning forgiveness, redemption, and not eating the wrong food, and Eve loving Adam for it. For loving the hell out of her with the light that's in him. We'll be right back. Hello, here I am again. Oh, look at that. It's 11:15. What day is it? What's the number of the program? Because we're hitting and missing on these things, aren't we? David, can you make numbers for these programs? Because it's hit and miss, and people want to buy the programs. K733 is the number of the program, and butt in and give the number if I forget before the program ends in the last few minutes, if you will, if I forget. And the first hour is 332, correct? Yes. So that's the first hour. So whichever hour you want or both, you can get a copy of that by calling the office, Foundation of Human Understanding. Go to the website, fhu.com, or call 800-877-3227. And please think of this device as a delivery system, a delivery system of salvation. Look, if you are Jewish or Christian persuasion, or if you are, anything else, because there's so many different religions, and you're not happy with your salvation, you've still got the same old problems, same old fears, same diseases as everybody else, as sinners, that you're not supposed to be, would you consider getting either a CD that we can give you for inexpensively or free if you don't have the money? You can download it on the web. It's called Be Still and Know. You can get the military version, and that is really good for the military, but it has everything you need on it, so you can discard the military stuff, and it's not expensive. But the best thing, the most effective delivery system we have, lies in something we've just been able to concoct, to put it that way. It's a little, not a computer, but yes, it is a computer. It's an MP3 player, is some kind of magic to that. Let's call it a computer. And it's the size of a credit card, and it fits in your wallet, and has earphones, and there's magic to that. It's a delivery system of salvation, but there's no religious words in it. So don't worry about it, because I'm not going to put landmines in the place, because certain words offend people. Like Jesus offends people because there's so many people misrepresenting him. So I took those words out and put the words that lead you to God and his plan of salvation. Simple.
You're listening to Adviceline with Roy Masters. Call Roy at 1-800-866-8883.
Now, I do have a... Oh, the young lady's gone? Oh, that's good. She got what she wanted. That was a nice call. Do you understand, ladies and gentlemen, that stress is... When a person who stresses you is either a mean person who enjoys it and never can be saved. Like the thief on the cross was very clearly... One was, you couldn't save. The other one says, we deserve what we got. And the other one says, if you're so smart, take yourself down. That one you can't save. Now, you can't know which one it is. There aren't many of the originals like that. They do exist. Mostly people can't help it. So forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. That is important to remember. And you are compulsive. You hurt people, or you hurt people by enslaving yourself to their wishes to avoid argument, to keep peace. All you do is serve the worst in that person. And that's why you get beaten up. And you think of that as love. You're all confused about your machinery. So let me take our next call, and maybe you can come to some understanding for this lady, Elizabeth in California. Hello, Elizabeth. I'm sorry to keep you waiting. I'm glad there's just a little time left.
Hello, Roy. Good evening.
Hello.
Thank you for taking my call.
My pleasure.
I have just basic question about man's dependency on mother.
You have a love-hate relationship with her.
No, well, my daughter's married to a man who has to see his mother every day.
Yes.
Now, presently...
Oh, I see. It's your husband's dependency on his mother.
No, it's my daughter's husband that depends on his mother.
Oh, as it doesn't come across on the screen here. I beg your pardon. So
yeah.
It's somebody else. It's somebody else.
So basically, my question is, what makes a man to be dependent on his mother? And currently, she's dying of cancer. So I would like to know the principle, if you can just explain. We have a very short time. So my daughter is a little bit on the side of resentment because he spends too much. It's just not right.
Well, now, you're talking about... Who are you talking about?
I am talking about the husband of my daughter.
Oh, the husband of your daughter.
He depends on his mother. He has to see her every day.
And what is the condition of your daughter? Is she angry?
Yes, she's resentful and.
Well, she's going to be afflicted by this if she's going to be pulled in. This mother is sucking the life out of her husband. In other words, he's addicted to her approval. Her mother,
she's dying of cancer now.
I know, and the more attention, the more he's always been guilted into serving her.
Okay, right.
And the more she draws from him, and the more he feels this pull and the compulsion to serve and not have a life of his own, and he cannot possibly give a life to his wife, your daughter. Not possible. And so this is a compulsion. She is dying, and and she's pulling him into death with her.
Ooh.
Because his mother has become savior. He needs his mother's love to give him the illusion of worth. And the illusion of worth is worthless, but it's all he's got. The illusion of worth blots out any real reality of what worth really is. And he cannot help himself. And your daughter must be very careful not to resent him, otherwise she'll get very ill. What she needs to separate, she needs to separate from this man while he's going through it and stay with you, and you need to tell her he cannot help it. He is enslaved, and be very careful that it doesn't infect you in some way for the rest of your life. It will go from one person to another.
Okay.
It is an ancient system. Man is addicted to the female. The female is a slave to the Paradise Lost spirit, and it's spread throughout the human race. And all men suffer from not loving the woman in the right way, but loving her for a sense of worth.
You know, so interesting, Roy, that as you're saying these words, I have a little chill in my body went through me.
And why
How
so?
interesting when you talk about ancient time, because you're talking about basic principle of life.
Yes, that's correct.
Right.
Everybody has this every man has this problem, and many men, when they feel the pull, run to another woman as if that would change things.
Right.
Doesn't.
Okay. Well, I think of course, basic principle.
It's a basic principle applies to all.
One love, and it's God.
If you love God first, men can only survive the woman. And if a woman cannot find a man, she's lost her husband. You must consider that he's lost, and she can't pine after him and resent him because he loves the mother more than her. Because if he transferred it to her, she would become his mother again. She would take the place of that, and she might die from cancer or for some sickness, making demands on him.
Yeah, actually, yes.
Transference.
Roy, this was extremely helpful. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. I wish I could talk to you more, but it's the end of the program. Call tomorrow. David will be here. I'm Roy Masters. We'll be right back. Okay, I do hope you enjoyed the program this evening, and if you receive a little advertising piece in the mail, which we've never done before, we give you email alerts to good things that are happening, but we never send out anything that I can remember all these years, all these 53 years I've been on radio. I remember doing that, but I have a need to do things we can't do without an additional income. And I do appreciate some of you may receive these little flyers, which are quite nicely done, by the way, quite dignified. You'll see Cure Stress on it, and it's quite a nice little piece of advertising, actually. And it shouldn't offend you. I hope it doesn't, because many of you are already supporting me. We don't know which one's which. It's too much work to do to be able to sift everybody out. So, but some people are calling up and saying, I've got auto debit already. So, but let me up the ante. And they do, and then they get the 2 Cure Stresses they can give away. The idea is if you will respond to that, or even call the office, even if you haven't received one of those advertising circulars we send around, I'm speaking about, if you will give, say, $20 or less or more to the foundation with your auto debit, we will give you 2 Cure Stress devices to share with people. We hope it goes viral. Thank you very much for listening, and support our program with your tax-deductible donations. I'm Roy Masters, and good evening.